Hello everyone and welcome to Quadratic's Practice channel is able to help you to build up your habit in completing a question a day in mathematics. So for today's video, we will look at a question from Form 4 Chapter 2, Quadratic Functions. So before we discuss this question, y'all can take a look and try it by yourself first. In part A, there are actually three things we need to highlight. The first one will be the range of values. The second one will be the square. The third one will be the inequality. So here, what they are given us is a quadratic function. So there will be one value which has the x squared, another value which has the x only, and another value which doesn't have the x. So in this chapter, we need to learn how to solve quadratic functions with equality, which we have seen in modern maths. Let's say an example, 3x squared plus 5x minus 2. So these kind of equations, we used factorization and calculator to help us find the x value. So in this question, we are focusing on inequalities, which can be seen here. And the question also states that we need to find the range of values. So this means that our final answer, it will involve inequalities, maybe more than or less than or other inequalities. So to solve this question, let us move everything to the left side first. And for the next line, we will have the same step in when we are finding inequalities, which is using factorization and calculator to help us find the x values. So to insert the equation into this calculator, we can press mode, press 5, and press 3, since this is a quadratic equation. And we just substitute the ABC into here. So our case will be A is 2, B is 5, C is negative 3. So we found that our answers is 1 over 2 and negative 3. Now the question is, how do we write our final answer? So for inequalities, there are actually only two ways to write our answer. To explain this, I will give an example first, and I will use the graph method. Here I have drawn a curve because we are dealing with quadratic functions, and this curve intersects the x-axis 2 points. Reason is because we found two different x values. Alright, for the first case, if we find more than or more than equal to in our equation, we need to focus on the areas which are above the x-axis, meaning here. If is less than or less than equal to, we need to focus on the area below the x-axis, which is here. So let's say our root values are 1 and 3. Our answers would be, for case number 1, is x is less than 1 because all the values here are less than 1, and x more than 3 because all the values here are more than 3. For the second case, we would write x is between 1 and 3. So back to our question, and using the graph method, we can see that our inequality is less than or equal to. So we need to focus on the area which is below the x-axis, which is here. So our answer would be x is between negative 3 to 1 over 2. So there will be a common mistake in students, which is they miss out the equal sign. Because originally our equation has the equal sign, so our answer should also have the equal sign as well. Moving on to part B, we are given a quadratic equation and there is this hint, 2 equal roots. And we need to express Q in terms of P. So now the question is, how do we use the clue 2 equal roots to help us form an equation whereby Q in terms of P? So before this, let me teach you a concept in this chapter. For every quadratic function, we can use the a, b, c from here to form this. So this is known as discriminant. The purpose of this discriminant is to help us to find the number of solutions for every quadratic function. Right? So for this discriminant, we actually have three cases. For the first case, if we calculated discriminant is more than 0, this means that this quadratic function has two real and distinct roots. So roots means the number of solutions we found, and distinct means different. So we can use this example in part A, whereby when we factorize, we can see that there are two different x values. If we calculate the discriminant of this quadratic function, we will get more than 0. So the graph would be something like this. The curve will intersect the x-axis at 2 points. So for the second case, if we calculated the discriminant is equal to 0, this means that this quadratic function has two real and equal roots. So equal roots meaning we found two x solutions, but the answers are the same. So this we only consider as one solution. That's why here it says two real and equal roots. Both are the same. So if we draw this into a graph, the curve will look like this, where it only intersects 1 point. If we calculated the discriminant is less than 0, this means that this quadratic function has no real roots, meaning the curve of this equation does not touch the x-axis, meaning no x value. So going back to our question, the clue gives us two equal roots. So meaning we need to use b squared negative 4ac equals to 0. So let's start off by finding the ABC for this quadratic equation first, and sub it inside here. So here I use different color for A, B and C to help you distinguish them. And now we can just simplify the equation, moving everything which is not Q to the right. So by moving the square to the other side, we will produce two answers. One is the positive case and one is the negative case. And in the square root, we can actually square root 16 and 9. So it will become 4 and 3 respectively. And the thing left in the square root will be p. And with that, we have completed this question. So there are two take-home points. So the first one would be, there are only two ways to write the answer when solving quadratic inequalities. So if it's more than or more than equal to, you will need to consider the areas above the x-axis. And if it's less than or less than equal to, you need to consider the area below the x-axis. And the second take-home point would be b squared negative 4ac, which is our discriminant, determines the number of solutions for a quadratic function. So there are actually three cases. If more than 0, it will have two x values. If equal to 0, there are only one x value, and less than 0 would be no solutions at all, or no real roots. Alright, so if you are interested in this video's answer scheme, you can click the link in the video description, and you feel this is beneficial to you, please give a like, subscribe and share it to your friends and classmates. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment. Right, so I'll see y'all very soon in the next video. Thank you.